You might have heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. Some people feel like they're always faking it. Today on Better Humanhood, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. But first, let me tell you about Kettle and Fire. This is not fake stuff. This is bone broth cooked for 20 hours with organic veggies and herbs. It is there for some collagen protein, for amino acids, to help you recover from injury, from your workouts. It's like a tea. You open the box, pour half a box, 16 ounces, in a box. So you pour half a box into a cup, stick that cup in the microwave for 45 seconds, and you just sip. And it's delicious. Hey, if you want to cook with it, you can cook with it. You want to make soup with it, you can do that. But it's great just right out of the cup. I like the beef broth. A little bit of cayenne in there to spice it up. But they also have some flavored broths for you. As of this recording, they're out of the turmeric, but that could be back in by the time you hear this. You can always go over to kettleandfire.com, check it out. Use Better Humanhood at checkout, all one word. Get 10% off your order. It's kettleandfire.com. Use code BetterHumanhood at checkout. 10% off your order. Let's do the show.
Welcome to Better Humanhood, where we build a better world by building better people. We have to live on the planet, and we have to live with other people. We have conversations about making that a wonderful proposition.
Something that many people moving on up in their careers or starting new businesses, raising their prices, whatever, something they suffer from is impostor syndrome. Welcome, by the way, to Better Humanhood, or welcome back if you're coming back. Hope you are having a wonderful day, a wonderful week, a wonderful life, a wonderful moment. Wikipedia offers a fairly straightforward definition of imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon, impostorism, fraud syndrome, or the imposter experience. It's a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a persistent, internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. In other words, people doubt themselves, but there's more, and this is important. Despite external evidence of their competence, those experiencing this phenomenon remain convinced that they are frauds and do not deserve all that they have achieved. Individuals with impostorism incorrectly attribute their success to luck, or as a result of deceiving others into thinking they are more intelligent than they perceive themselves to be. So, this isn't hey, I tricked people to get here. This is a feeling of having tricked people to get where you are, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. So if you look at where you are now, do you feel like you've earned your position? I'm guessing a lot of you are saying yes. A few of you are probably saying no. But if you look around you at your life, at your achievements, you probably deserve to be right where you are. Many people who suffer from imposter syndrome may have started with the attitude, fake it till you make it, and even after they've put in the work and actually made it, they still feel like they're faking it. I'll generally refer to this, by the way, as imposter syndrome, but the DSM, the Diagnostic Manual, does not classify it as a treatable diagnosis. Megan Della Camina points out that imposter syndrome is often situational. There are circumstances in which we feel perfectly confident, but if we move into a different situation, kapow! Imposter syndrome. While you may feel fully confident speaking to a group of more junior people, she writes, addressing your peers could completely undo you. Or you could be fine at work, but having to speak up at a local school meeting, forget about it. Kirsten Weir writes in terms of graduate students moving their way into the world of work, teaching and research. Not that teaching and research aren't work, but you know what I mean. She cites pressure to achieve as a common driving factor and quotes psychiatrist Carole Lieberman. Most people experience some self-doubt when facing new challenges, says Lieberman, but someone with imposter phenomenon has an all-encompassing fear of being found out to not have what it takes. Even if they experience outward signs of success, getting into a selective graduate program, say, or acing test after test, they have trouble believing that they are actually worthy. Instead, they may chalk their success up to good luck. Weir offers a few suggestions for overcoming, or at least working through, imposter syndrome, such as talking to mentors, recognizing your expertise, knowing what you do well, don't be a perfectionist, change your thinking, like that's easy, right? Talk to someone who can help, like a coach or a therapist. Ellen Hendrickson identifies several flavors, if you will, of imposter syndrome, and we'll talk about Valerie Young in a minute if you're sitting here going, Valerie Young. Yeah. Yes, we know she's the seminal work in this, but we're going to start with Ellen Hendrickson. I'm a fake, will be the first flavor here. The fundamental fear is being discovered as unmasked. As is the fundamental fear, zip, 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 zip. Let me make my mouth work. The first flavor is, I'm a fake. The fundamental fear is being discovered or unmasked. Achievers often feel like they've made it thus far under wraps, but the day will come when their cover is blown and they will be revealed as a fake. In other words, people don't believe in their own achievements. Another one is, I got lucky. Second flavor of imposter syndrome attributes achievements to luck. A twist on this is the, I'm not smart, talented, or gifted, I just work hard. And I'm going to take some issue here because I coasted through high school on being smart and got hit with the you've never had to work for anything stick in college. Smart gets you a 1320 out of 1600 on your SATs with a bloody nose after studying for a week. Hard work actually gets you places in life, while smart only gets you so far. Anyway, another flavor is, oh, this old thing? In imposter syndrome, sufferers truly can't take a compliment. The last variation of imposter syndrome, the receiver of an award or recognition discounts or downplays the honor. She actually likens this to the scene in It's a Wonderful Life when George compliments Violet's dress and she replies, oh, this old thing? It might be actual modesty or a humble brag, or, in the case of someone with imposter syndrome, she truly couldn't take the compliment. Kelvin and I discussed this on JKWD a while back, by the way, about compliments. It can be difficult to take a compliment, but hey, fake it till you make it, right? Just say thank you. Eventually, you get the same compliment enough times, you will start to believe it. Valerie Young, who I mentioned a minute ago, is perhaps the most prominent expert in imposter syndrome these days. She first heard about it in 1982 when a fellow student read from the original paper identifying imposterism by Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes. Melody J. Wilding summarizes 5 distinct types of imposter syndrome identified by Young and offers some solutions for them. First, perfectionists. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome often go hand in hand. Think about it. Perfectionists are set excessively high goals for themselves, and when they fail to reach a goal, they experience major self-doubt and worry about measuring up. Basically, the prescription here is get over it. Maybe saying it that way isn't helpful, but it's really what it all comes down to. In Wilding's words, for this type, success is rarely satisfying because they believe they could have done even better. That's neither productive nor healthy. Owning and celebrating achievements is essential if you want to avoid burnout, find contentment, and cultivate self-confidence. Learn to take your mistakes in stride, viewing them as a natural part of the process. In addition, push yourself to act before you're ready. Force yourself to start the project you've been planning for months. The truth is, there will never be a perfect time and your work will never be 100% flawless. The sooner you're able to accept that, the better off you'll be. Basically, if you're a perfectionist, you just need to learn that you'll never actually be perfect. Most of the time, you'll exceed everybody's expectations except your own. The next type is a Superman. Since people who experience this phenomenon are convinced they're phonies amongst real-deal colleagues, they often push themselves to work harder and harder to measure up. This is just a false cover-up for their insecurities, and the work overload may harm not only their own mental health, but also their relationships with others. Guess what? Busyness isn't sexy. Neither is burnout. You don't need kudos for working longer hours. Prove yourself by working smart and well, not long. The third type is the natural genius. Young says that people with this competence type believe that they need to be a natural genius. As such, they judge their competence based upon ease and speed as opposed to their efforts. In other words, if they take a long time to master something, they feel shame. This is the "I'm not smart, I'm just lucky" bit that Hendrickson writes about. The fix, writes Wilding, is to build your skill set, practice stuff and get better at it, rather than avoiding things because you're just not good at them. The fourth type is called the soloist. Sufferers who feel as though asking for help reveals their phoniness are what Young calls soloists. It's okay to be independent, but not to the extent that you refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. I stopped suffering from do-it-all-yourself-itis at the beginning of the year. You hear the intro and outro of this podcast? That's not my voice. I didn't sit at GarageBand for hours composing a music clip like I did on previous versions of the podcast. You're never going to get great at everything. We grew as a species because we could cooperate. Why go solo now? The final type is called the expert. Experts measure their competence based on what and how much they know or can do. Believing they will never know enough, they fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. Wilding offers up some good advice here. Start practicing just-in-time learning. This means acquiring a skill for when you need it. For example, if your responsibilities change, rather than just hoarding knowledge for false comfort. This is like if you had to teach a class, you really only need to be a week ahead of your students on the reading so that you can teach it at the lecture and then be available for questions. You don't need to know the whole course cold before you start. Here's some more action items if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, culled from some of the sources we've already talked about, and some from a couple of others, and some from personal experience. One is don't wait for perfection. You can always improve later. This is something that Reid Hoffman says a lot. He's the founder of a little website you might have heard of called LinkedIn. He says, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. Here's something you can do. Do some affirmations. This is something I picked up from the Master Key experience, and I'm going to put a little variation on it. I'm going to give you their version. If you want that, take their course. It's an interesting 6 months. You get to meet some interesting people, and we went and had the time of our lives out with the instructors in Kauai after. But that's an aside. Go get 50 index cards. Set 25 aside for a moment. On each of the 25 in front of you, write one thing you've accomplished in your life, big or small. I graduated high school could be one. I won the 3rd grade spelling bee could be one. I raised a child to adulthood could be one. Whatever, they'll come easily once you get the hang of it. Every day, you're going to shuffle the cards, read through them when you wake up around lunchtime and before bed. Over the next few days, add 5 cards a day until you get your 50. If you want to keep adding after that, go for it. You don't have to shuffle through 150, 200 cards at a time, however many you go with. Just read 20 at a time if that gets you through. After a week or two, you'll start internalizing that you've made a lifelong habit of accomplishing things. It'll be easier to keep accomplishing after that. Another thing to do is celebrate small victories. We learned in our series on happiness that reaching a goal brings a feeling of relief, like taking off your pack at the end of a hike. But checking off milestones along the way floods us with our happiness chemicals. Having small victories to celebrate can build confidence, and confidence kills imposter syndrome. We're actually going to talk about confidence next week. Posture. You know the victory pose, the one people display when they win a race or basically anything else? Yeah, arms overhead in the V, head back arched. Even blind people who never saw anybody do it strike that pose at moments of victory. And we'll put a link to Amy Cuddy's TED Talk on that in the show notes here. Practice. Imposter syndrome is, in part, about not having confidence that you're good enough at something. Can never hurt to get better, but as we said before, don't wait until you're perfect. Lastly, be objective. Have you ever slow cooked some food over the course of several hours? Some ribs or brisket? Some marinara? If you stay in or near the kitchen for 5 or 6 hours or however long you're cooking, you'll never smell it. But walk out of the house to check the mail, and the second you walk in the door, you'll notice the delicious aroma. You didn't notice the product of your work until you stepped away. Do that for your life, your career, whatever you're feeling impostor-ish about. Step back. Give yourself a minute to be away from it, and then look at it and see what your qualifications really are. If you'd hire the person with those qualifications for the job, you're good enough. Now, go forth and rock. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Be who you are. Be who you will to be. Stop by kettleandfire.com and use code BetterHumanhood at checkout for 10% off. We will see you next time.
Thank you for listening. Get show notes and more at betterhumanhood.com. Leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And have yourself a wonderful day.